So we're talking about things like certainly technology, and this afternoon there's a session that focuses on technology. But I want to look more at things like short attention span. They don't concentrate for very long, they get bored easily. That means for us as teachers, our job is to keep the students involved and engaged. So if the teacher stands at the front of the class and goes blah, 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 then the phones will come out and the concentration will go. So we need to be very careful about how we prepare our lessons and what activities we prepare. We need to make sure that we involve the students. So we've talked about CLT, communicative language teaching. And we're going to have a look at some more information about what CLT is. So I have some information here, but I'm not just going to give you the information because that's boring. Okay? So let's do an activity. And this activity is called Dictogloss. Have you done Dictogloss before? Anybody? Okay, great. This is a brand new activity. Okay, so Dictogloss, how does it work? So I have this information. I'm going to read this information 3 times. All right? The first time I read it, just listen. So can everyone put your pens and pencils down? No writing. No writing. Okay. So just listen. It's only 5 sentences. It's not very long. As you listen, don't try to remember every word. That's not important. But try to remember the main points, the main ideas of what I say. Okay? So just listen. When I've finished speaking, you can then speak with your partner and go, what do you remember? He said, da, 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 and just exchange your ideas, but don't write. Okay? So, first, when I read, what are you going to do? Listen and try to remember. Every word? No, just the main ideas. When I stop talking, what are you going to do? Share the information. What can you remember with your partner? Are you going to write? Okay, no writing at all. Okay, so the first time, just listen and try to remember. CLT was developed in the 1970s and 80s and aims to give students as much real language practice as possible. The teacher helps create situations where the students can communicate with each other in pairs and groups. This means the learners should not just listen and copy what the teacher says. Activities should be engaging and student-centered and should focus on fluency as well as accuracy. Teachers should try to make the materials interesting for the learners. Just that. Speak with your partner. What do you remember? No writing. Okay, Second time. Second time, no writing. No writing. Just listen again. When I finish this time, you can start to write. Don't try to remember every word. Don't write full sentences. Just write the main ideas, the main points. Okay? So, when I read, are you going to listen or write? Just listen. When I finish reading, you can start to write, and you can also speak as well. Okay? So the second time. CLT was developed in the 1970s and 80s and aims to give students as much real language practice as possible. The teacher helps create situations where the students can communicate with each other in pairs and groups. This means the learners should not just listen and copy what the teacher says. Activities should be engaging and student-centered and should focus on fluency as well as accuracy. Teachers should try to make the materials interesting for learners. Okay, you can start writing and speak as well. Remember, just notes. Don't write full sentences, just the main ideas. Okay, now I'll read it for the last time, and this time you can write. So when I read it, you can write. But please remember, don't try and copy every word I say. It's not important. Just write notes, the main ideas. Okay? So this time, listen and write. CLT was developed in the 1970s and 80s and aims to give students as much real language practice as possible. The teacher helps create situations where the students can communicate with each other in pairs and groups. This means the learners should not just listen and copy what the teacher says. Activities should be engaging and student-centered and should focus on fluency as well as accuracy. Teachers should try to make the materials interesting for the learners. Okay, you can continue to write and also speak with your partner. See if you can help each other. Now, can you look at your notes and now you can make full sentences? They don't have to be exactly the same as my sentences, but for example, maybe you wrote down CLT 1970s, 80s, okay, as notes. Now make this a full sentence. For example, CLT was developed in the 1970s and 80s. So speak together and make your notes into full sentences. See if you can get a summary of what I said. Not exactly the same, but similar information. Okay? So speak together and write full sentences from your notes. But remember, I have 10, I just look for the first. So you must put your flag up. But I'll try to. Sorry? Okay, so if you think you have a summary of what I said, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. If you think you have a summary, can you put your flag up, please? Okay, grapes. Okay, let's just listen and see if they have similar information to me.
Test. CLT. Okay. CLT. Okay. See now. CLT was developed in the year 1970s to 1980s. It aimed students to practice real language as much as possible. Teachers create situations for students to practice with each other in pairs or in groups. Learners should not just only learn to listen and copy, but they need to learn to manipulate the language by themselves. The activity should be engaging and student-centered. Teachers should prepare material which is very interesting, not just only for the activities, but also teachers. But also learners.
Good. That's very good. That was a very good summary. Thank you, Grapes. 10 points for Grapes. I won't get everybody's summary. Okay, so that's some basic information with some links to more details about CLT. Now, let's look at the Dictogloss activity I did with you. You said this is the first time you've done Dictogloss. First time you've done Dictogloss, yeah? So, what did you think about Dictogloss? Now, the first thing is you cannot do this with very young, very low-level students. It doesn't work. So this is especially for Matiom higher-level students. You can make it simpler by making the text shorter. You could just do 1 or 2 sentences. You could also read the text more times as well. So you can adapt it to for lower level students. But you cannot do this with very young very low-level students because they can't write. They can't write enough to be able to do this. So a good activity. What did you practice during Dictogloss? Did you do any listening, speaking, reading, writing, grammar? Wow, what fantastic. Okay, so again, it was all 4 skills. So a nice integrated activity. Was it student-centered? Was it student-centered? Who did all the work? The students. Okay, I read this out 3 times and I gave you some instructions, but you were doing all of the work. So it was a student-centered activity.